Hi everyone, it's MJ Reads the Bible, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at 7 things people dislike about Christianity. And I think it's so important as a Christian to be aware of this list so that when we approach people who are maybe negative towards our faith, we kind of know where they're coming from. Now, I was able to get this list by asking ChatGPT 4. For those of you who don't know, it is an AI that is incredibly powerful. And I've actually been using it to analyze and help me go through the book of Colossians. And I've wrapped up all of the things that it said in like a page. There's like 200 pages. So I put it in Amazon Kindle, and I'm going to be posting some blogs on Medium. So there'll be links in the description below if you want to see how the AI analyzes and just brings a completely different perspective to the scriptures, which I'm absolutely, really am enjoying. But what I'm doing in today's video is I decided to ask ChatGPT. I said, pretend you are an average American in your mid-30s and tell me what are the things you dislike about Christianity. Now, first of all, it went on to say, it's an AI language model and a lot of people have got a lot of respect and find meaning from Christianity. So please, it was like this whole disclaimer. But then it finally did get into the 7 things that people dislike. And what was interesting is that out of all of the 7, there wasn't the one which I thought there was going to be. And that is that people say, believing in a supernatural is just unreasonable. I thought people were going to come with that atheist viewpoint of it's illogical or it's unreasonable or it's irrational. There was none of that, which was fascinating. But let's actually look at what it did right. So I'm going to pull up ChatGPT. Like I said, it gave a whole disclaimer on it. I think that's for the lawyers getting involved. It's like, please remember, these are not my personal opinions, but just common criticisms. Anyway, let's jump straight into it. So the first one, it's this term called dogmatism. It says some people feel that certain branches of Christianity can be dogmatic and unwilling to entertain alternative beliefs or ideas. This can lead to a sense of exclusivity and intolerance towards other beliefs. So before we get to the others, I actually said to ChatGPT, I said, well, can you give examples of the dogmatism in Christianity that people don't like? And it said that the first one is this literal interpretation of the Bible. Some people feel that it can be a little bit too strict and lead to rejection of scientific viewpoints. And I mean, there's so much content that we can go in addressing that. And I'm not going to do that in this video. I think we'll save each of these because otherwise this will be like an hour-long video. And I think they'll be great as videos on their own. But some of the dogma that they don't like is the literal interpretation of the Bible, the exclusivity of salvation, this idea that salvation is only attainable through Jesus Christ and that non-Christians will be eternally damned. Like I say, that's another whole can of worms. Opposition to contraception and abortion. And this is an interesting one because certain or different Christian denominations will have different beliefs, on abortion, on contraceptions, on all of these kind of things. I mean, the next one, it was the gender roles and hierarchy. And then you can imagine with the rise of feminism and the challenging of what are the expectations around the roles of men and women within marriage and family life. Then they had one called the infallibility of religious leaders. The idea that, the Pope can never be wrong on matters of faith and morals and those kind of things. And I guess, what's happening in some churches around pedophilia and all of this and how sometimes the church tries to cover it up. And then they've got opposition to LGBTQ plus rights, which is an interesting one because that was also a whole topic on its own. It was one of the other 7. But those were just a bunch of, and this is, I think, the great thing about ChatGPT is if it says something, you can be like, well, explain it a little bit more. So that's the dogma that people, your average American in your mid-30s, is uncomfortable with regards to Christianity. Another thing, and I think this is very much because I said American, and it even says, particularly in the United States, and that is the influence on politics. Critics argue that Christianity's influence on politics can lead to policies that are based on religious beliefs rather than objective evidence or the desires of the larger population. And like I say, each of these topics, let me know in the comment section below which one you're the most interested in, and we can do a deep dive using ChatGPT to just explore it a lot more. Number 3 is the focus on guilt and sin. Some individuals feel that Christianity places too much emphasis on guilt and sin, which can lead to feelings of unworthiness or preoccupation with one's moral shortcomings. And it's an uncomfortable thing for a Christian to read that, because you're like, no, this is what makes Christianity so liberating, is the fact that Jesus' blood that was shed on the cross wipes away all the guilt, wipes away all of the sin. But I agree that within the institution, the way Christianity has manifested on earth through the church, there has at times been a focus on guilt and sin, and maybe less emphasis has been placed on this liberation that we get from Christ shedding his blood on the cross. But like I said, we'll do deep dives on another time. Otherwise, this video will be way too long. Number 4 is discrimination. Certain Christian teachings have been historically used to justify discrimination against various groups, including women, LGBTQ plus individuals, and people from other religious backgrounds. And I mean, like I said, we've just done the whole AI analysis on Colossians, and there literally is a verse in Colossians that says, it doesn't matter if you're Jew, if you're Gentile, if you're barbarian, if you're Scythian, or it's got this whole list. It's like it doesn't matter who you are, Christ is for all. And this is the whole mystery of Christ, especially from a Jewish point of view, is that the big mystery that was hidden from them was that the Messiah was not just for the Jewish people, but was for everyone. So it's interesting, because the whole idea or thing behind Christianity is that it is inclusive for everyone. This is why it's a global religion and not just for certain groups. But like I say, the way it's been manifested, people feel like there is a lot of discrimination within the church. And I think a lot of racial hate and other types of groups sometimes have religious leanings as well, which kind of aids towards this false narrative. And then they've got sexual morality, big discussion in today's culture, especially something where, humanity's recently gotten the contraceptive. We understand sexuality a lot more, and we're living in a state where the consequences of sin the consequences of sex were not as severe as they were back then, and people are saying, well, why isn't Christianity updating? And I think this is, again, another whole can of worms that we can get into. But yeah, they say sexual morality, this is issue number 5. Some people take issue with the strict rules around sex and relationships prescribed by certain branches of Christianity, believing that these teachings can be harmful and repressive. And I guess that's the whole thing, is that it's certain branches of Christianity, various different denominations have different views when it comes towards sexual morality and what you can't do, marriage and all these kind of things. And I guess that leads into number 6, which is the disagreement among the denominations. I guess if you're new to the faith and you're like, how many denominations are there? There's so many, and the sheer number of Christian denominations and their differing beliefs can be confusing and off-putting for some individuals, leading to skepticism about the religion as a whole. I guess Christianity, in a nutshell, is that Christ was crucified and resurrected, so that our sins can be forgiven. That's Christianity, in a nutshell. All the other things, like when to get baptized, should you be circumcised, what's first Holy Communion, what happens after you die, all of those other things I feel are very peripheral, and there are a whole bunch of different viewpoints and all of them tend to be based on biblical teachings, but at the end of the day, all Christians do believe in that forgiveness of the sin through the blood of Christ. But I agree that there's this disagreement among denominations. It can sometimes be heated, especially in a historical context where it was also used, I guess, influencing politics back in medieval Europe, which led to a bunch of wars. And I guess this comes to number 7, speaking about medieval, historical abuses. Christianity has been associated with numerous historical injustices, including the Crusades, the Inquisition, and colonization, which some people find difficult to reconcile with the faith's teaching on love and compassion. And I mean, again, this is one where a whole video would be really, really beneficial, because it's something for me that I don't struggle with. And I think the reason why I don't struggle with these ones is I say to myself, well, listen, if people do bad things in the name of a religion, it doesn't taint the religion. It shows that those people are bad. It shows that when religion says we're born, we've got this sin in our heart. This is why we need Christ as our savior. And we see people doing bad things. It's like, well, okay, yes, that's basically confirming what the Bible is saying about humanity and how we are a fallen, fallen group. So the historical abuses, I agree that they were horrible, but for me, it doesn't invalidate the religion, even if people use the religion to justify. But again, we can do a whole video and I can unpack exactly what I mean by that. So let me know in the comment section below which of these 7 you feel, is the one that's most worthy of a video. And then, of course, ChatGPT does end off by saying, please remember that these are not my personal opinions, but rather a summary of common criticisms that some individuals may have. There is great diversity within Christianity, and many people find deep meaning and fulfillment through their faith. Like I say, it's the reason why I wanted to do this is so that when someone, when you say, oh, I'm a Christian, people are like, oh, look at you. You can maybe say, hey, what don't you like about Christianity the most? You can say, is it the dogma? Is it the influence on politics, the focus on guilt, the discrimination, the sexual morality things, the disagreement among denominations, or the historical abuses? And that person will look at you and be like, wow, okay, for me, it's discrimination, or for somebody else, it might be focus on guilt, or somebody might be this. But what's lovely is by you listing those 7 things, you've opened the door for the conversation. The person can then talk to you. And then sometimes you don't have to convince, you don't have to do anything. Just give them an opportunity to explain and just listen. And it'll be amazing how people say like, oh, wow, like I came hard on this person's faith. I gave a lot of criticism and they just listened. And the fact that they didn't even feel like the need to challenge it or get aggressive, or that there maybe they know something I don't. Maybe there's more to it. And I think that is true on all of these 7 things, is that more research, more investigation, more thinking will show that, yes, on the surface, these things appear as valid criticisms. But when you understand the full context and the full nature of them, you realize that they're not as, how would I say, they're not to the core of Christianity, but rather on how it's been manifested. Anyway, I don't want this video to be too long, so let me wrap it off, find the little button to click pause and everything. But hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and keep well, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon. Cheers.